So this is the float arm adjustment gauge. It's from Rotax. You can see here we've got the little part number. The first thing we're going to do is remove the bowl screw and then the 3 screws here that hold the bowl to the carburetor. Take the floats out, remove the gasket, and then I'll show you the gauge in action. Hey you guys, today's video we've got a new technical regulation from the guys at Rotax and you guys need to know what it is. Now for those guys that have been following along on our channel for a few years, we've been covering the Rotax Delorto carburetor in depth, so we're not going to go too crazy on that today. But what we are going to explain is the Rotax float height checking tool gauge that we have here, and it has been applied in the world rules before. And like I said, it now applies to all Rotax classes here in Australia and especially at the Rotax Pro Tour. So this is the float arm adjustment gauge. It's from Rotax. You can see here we've got the little part number. Now you can order this part directly from Rotax. Like I said, it's a technical regulation and I'm going to show you how to use it in just a minute. And then these two parts sit on the body of the carburetor and the lever arm of the carby has to fit inside this zone. Now traditionally we've measured down to our float arms and I'm going to show you that too to give you a little bit of reference. This is being the leanest of the conditions when the float arm's at the top, and this would be the richest of the conditions that you'd ever use, and that's at the bottom. The first thing we're going to do is remove the bowl screw and then the 3 screws here that hold the bowl to the carburetor. Take the floats out, remove the gasket, and then I'll show you the gauge in action. So now we're ready to check the carburetor using the new gauge. Now with the bowl and the gasket removed, we can put the gauge down onto the body of the carburetor and it needs to touch here and here. And then we can slide the gauge along and make sure that this little lever arm doesn't touch the gauge. If it does, that's foul of the regulations and you'll be in breach of the rules. So you need to make sure that the gauge doesn't touch the lever arm at all. And it has to pass on both sides. Now to give you guys some reference to our other videos where we've used the digital verniers to measure down from here to the top of the lever, we're going to drop those down just like so. And at the richer end of the settings, that works out to be about 24.5 millimeters. And for reference, 24.5 millimeters is probably the maximum float height I've ever used on any Rotax engine. Now I'm going to adjust the carby to the leanest setting according to the gauge and then show you what that is in reference to the verniers as well. So now we can just adjust the float height a little leaner using our pointy nose pliers. If we can just jam them in there and give it a squeeze. Just like so. So now that we've adjusted the lever heights to their leanest setting, let's check it with the gauge and compare it to the verniers. So with the gauge reinstalled on the carburetor, we can now slide it in, and as you can see, we are probably just a little bit off the gauge there in the leanest of the settings. Don't forget you've got to check both sides. And as a point of reference, we're going to use the vernier calipers to measure down and check at that lever height. So the leanest setting is just a shade under 23 millimeters. You might be at home going, Des, what the heck is all that about? Well, the leanest settings is when you're going to use the richest main jets, or if you're running the mini max and micro max categories, you might run the 23 millimeter float level with a lean jet like a 115, 118 main jet, something like this. And then when you're running the junior max and the senior max that are making more power, you're going to be at the richer float levels anyway, which is right in the middle of that gauge, around 23.5 millimeters with a 120 to 125 main jet. The DD2, the same thing, you might experiment around, but it's going to fall pretty safely within the range of the gauge. So what do you guys think about the new rules in 2021? Is this too much, or you just love it as part of the game, as another technical regulation that you've just got to get perfectly right? Let us know in the comments below. Now, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. Smash the like button, turn on those pesky notifications. If you haven't had enough of the Power Public team by now, You can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok. And if you have made it this far, thank you very much. Smash the damn like button, turn on those pesky notifications. We really appreciate that support. And a shout out to all our Patreons and YouTube members. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.